Hello, welcome to the Other Side Reports. I'm your host, Artie LaForge. Holden McPherson's on assignment. Tonight, I'm taking you to a place that carries with it not just graves, but secrets. A place where silence feels heavier than words and shadows seem to have lives of their own. This is the story of Black Hollow Cemetery, a place forgotten by most but never by those who experience its restless spirits. Black Hollow Cemetery was established in the mid-1800s, back when the town was no more than a collection of wooden houses, a church, and a single dirt road cutting through endless farmland. For a while, the cemetery was just an ordinary resting place. Headstones were carved by hand, families visited on Sundays, and the grass was always neatly trimmed by the church elders. But everything changed in the summer of 1867. That year, cholera swept through the region like wildfire. Families were dropping one by one, and soon the cemetery filled faster than anyone could keep up with. The town gravediggers dug long trenches, burying entire households together, without coffins or markers. Soon the graves were rushed, barely covered. The townspeople believed as long as the bodies were in concentrated ground, their souls would rest. But rest was the last thing to happen. It all started with whispers, people claiming they heard wailing when passing the cemetery at night. Horses refused to walk near it. Farmers said that their livestock scattered whenever they grazed too close. And soon, parents began warning their children, don't linger by Black Hollow after dark, or the hollow ones will find you. You see, the hollow ones, that's what they called the forgotten dead, those who never received a proper burial. The most infamous story came over a century later in 1972. A group of 5 teenagers, 3 boys, 2 girls, wanted proof that the cemetery wasn't haunted. They brought along flashlights, a cassette tape recorder, blankets, and enough bravado to laugh in the face of ghost stories. At first, the night was uneventful. They sat near the gate, telling jokes, daring each other to touch the oldest headstone. They were even carving their initials into the tree bark. But by midnight, they were restless, mocking the idea of ghosts. But at exactly 3:07 a.m., the mood shifted. Their flashlights began to dim and flicker. Batteries that they bought brand new drained in seconds. The cassette recorder clicked on by itself, the reel slowly turning, and then came the sound of low, hollow moaning that seemed to rise up from the ground itself. One girl swore she saw a shadow move across the graveyard, even though no one was there. Another boy claimed something cold brushed against his neck like icy breath. They tried to leave, but the rusted iron gate, loose and swinging when they entered, wouldn't budge. It was as though something was held it shut from the other side. The panic set in. They climbed the fence. One boy felt invisible hands grip his ankles. Another heard his name whispered in the rasping voice that didn't belong to anyone alive. By dawn, the group stumbled back into town, pale, shaken, and sworn that they would never go back to Black Hollow Cemetery. Decades later, one of those teenagers, by then a grown man, decided to face his fears. He had spent years convincing himself it was all in his imagination. And so, one autumn evening, he returned to Black Hollow, this time with his young son. As they walked among the crooked headstones, the boy grew quiet. He stared at the far end of the cemetery where the unmarked graves lay beneath dying oak trees. Finally, he tugged on his father's sleeve and asked, Dad? Why are all those people standing over there? The father froze. He saw nothing but fog rolling through the grass. His son, though, described them perfectly. Dozens of thin, gray figures standing side by side, mouths open as if screaming, eyes hollow and lifeless. When he asked his son to count them, the boy whispered, too many. Even today, the modern encounters, visitors report strange things at Black Hollow. Voices calling their names when no one else is around. Cold spots that move, following them from headstone to headstone. Shapes drifting through the mist that vanish when approached. And most chilling of all, handprints pressed into car windows overnight, as if something tried to climb in. Paranormal investigators have tried to capture evidence. Recordings taken at the cemetery are filled with whispers, cries, and sometimes a word. Help. One group left an EMF reader near the unmarked graves overnight. When they retrieved it, the device was cracked down the middle as if crushed by unseen hands. Black Hollow Cemetery still stands, overgrown, half forgotten, and avoided by those who know its history. Some say it's cursed because the dead were never given peace. Others says the land itself is tainted, feeding on grief and fear. But one thing is certain, those buried there are not resting quietly. So next time you pass by an old cemetery, remember, sometimes it's not the living you should fear. It's the ones still waiting for someone to hear their cries. Thank you for listening to tonight's story. If you enjoyed this haunting tale, subscribe and like Better Side Reports for more journeys into the unknown. And remember, the dead don't always stay buried.